Have you ever felt that you've been living your life for someone else? Not just once, but for so long that you've forgotten what your real face even looks like. You smile in rooms that feel cold inside. You say yes when your whole body wants to scream no. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because silence feels dangerous. We all wear masks, some more than others, some so well that even in the mirror they don't slip. But here's the truth no one tells you. The longer you wear a mask, the more it starts to look like your skin. There's a kind of ache that doesn't show on the body. It's the ache of forgetting who you are, slowly, quietly to become who the world told you to be. A good student, a supportive partner, a successful adult, a likable friend. We perform over and over, and the applause becomes addictive until silence feels like failure. But in that silence, if you let it breathe long enough, you might hear something whisper back. Not the voice that says, "You should," but the voice that asks, "Who are you beneath all this?" A Zen monk once said, "When I was young, I tried to be wise. Then I tried to be kind. Then I tried to be someone important. But one day, I simply sat still and forgot all those names." He didn't lose himself. He returned. This is the strange paradox of modern life. We are surrounded by mirrors, phones, feeds, selfies, yet we feel unseen. We curate versions of ourselves tailored for approval. Online, offline, even in love. And somewhere along the way, we confuse visibility with connection, validation with worth. But there is a difference between being liked and being known. I once knew a woman, mid-30s, 2 kids, solid marriage career on track. From the outside, everything looked whole. But she told me one night, "I feel like I'm disappearing a little more every year." It's not depression exactly. It's like I'm performing my life, but not living it. That sentence stayed with me. Performing your life, but not living it. Have you ever felt that way? Where even your joy feels scripted, where even your sadness must be quiet and polite. We become experts in fitting in, but amateurs in being real. Buddhist teachings speak of anatta, the doctrine of no fixed self. At first, it sounds terrifying. Does that mean we are nothing? No. It means we are not the roles, not the labels, not even the stories. We are the space beneath it all. The awareness, watching the masks shift and fade, and in that space, there is freedom. But most of us never go there, because silence feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe. So we scroll, we post, we play roles, because at least in the noise, we don't have to ask the hard question. Who am I when no one's watching? The mind is like a stage. Thoughts, emotions, personas, they come and go like actors. But you are not the actor. You are the stage. And the stage never disappears, even when the curtain falls. So tonight, when the day ends, when you're finally alone with yourself, before you reach for your phone, before you scroll one more time, just sit and listen. You might feel a quiet grief rise. Don't push it away. That grief is sacred. It means something real inside you still wants to live without masks. Honor it. Because healing doesn't always look like joy. Sometimes it looks like truth. And the truth is, you were never born to be a role. You were born to be real. There's a moment in everyone's life when the applause fades, when the roles don't satisfy like they used to, when success feels hollow, and relationships feel like distant echoes of something once true. That moment feels like a fall, but it's not. It's an invitation. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. Let me tell you a story. In ancient Japan, there was a tradition among Zen students. Before being accepted into a monastery, they had to sit outside the gates, sometimes for days. No food, no shelter, just stillness. No role to play, no story to tell. Only the raw presence of being. If they waited long enough, if they didn't flee from discomfort, the gates would open. Not just to the temple, but to the temple within. This ritual wasn't cruel. It was a mirror. Because the gate most people fail to enter is the one inside themselves. You see, it's not the world that blocks us. It's the layers we've built. The expectations, the personas, the constant need to be something. We say we want freedom, but we fear what it asks of us. Because freedom means stepping out naked emotionally, spiritually, into a world where you can no longer hide behind your resume, your filters, your busy calendar. Have you ever noticed how tired you feel, even when you've done nothing wrong? That exhaustion doesn't always come from doing too much. It often comes from being someone you're not for too long. It's a soul fatigue, a quiet erosion that happens when you keep ignoring the whisper inside that says, "This isn't who I am." But we override it. We keep moving. We say it's just life. And maybe that's true, but not your life. Not the one you were meant to live. The Stoics spoke of living in alignment with nature, with the nature of things, and the nature of oneself. They didn't mean escaping to a forest. They meant dropping the false, returning to what is. In modern terms, stop pretending. You don't need a brand. You don't need a performance. You don't need to always be on. You need to come home to yourself. And that home is often the one we neglect the most because it's not flashy. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't win arguments, but it gives you peace. And peace is the rarest currency today. I met a young man once, 27, tech job, smart. He told me, "I feel like I'm trapped in a character I created." At first, it helped me fit in. Now, it's the reason I can't breathe. That hit me because so many of us are gasping quietly, drowning in our own performance. We think the solution is escape. Quit the job, move cities, start over. But here's what the old masters would say. You don't need to run away. You need to look inside and drop what was never truly you. That's not a retreat. That's a return. There's an old parable in the Theravada tradition. A man carries a boat across a river. When he reaches the other side, he keeps carrying the boat on his back. Someone asks, "Why are you still carrying it?" And the man says, "Because it helped me before." We do the same with our identities. We carry masks that once protected us, roles that once gave us belonging. But now, they just weigh us down. The wise know a tool is not a self, a mask is not a face, and safety is not always the same as truth. So maybe tonight you can try this. Find a quiet corner. Turn off the noise. Place your phone face down and ask gently, "Who am I?" When I'm not trying to be anyone. Don't rush to answer. Let the silence speak first. Let the discomfort rise. Let the tears come if they must. Because underneath all the pretending, you're still there, still breathing, still waiting to be seen. Not by the world, but by you. And when that seeing begins, life starts to feel real again. Not perfect, but honest. And that is where healing begins. You can only run from yourself for so long. Eventually, the silence catches up. And in that silence is the version of you who's been watching all along. Not judging, not angry, just waiting for you to remember. Not who the world wanted you to be, but who you were before the world told you who to become. There's a story I heard once. A boy was raised to be strong, stoic, always composed. His father told him, never show weakness. The world eats the soft. So the boy became stone. He buried his tears. He wore confidence like armor. He became admired, successful, respected. But inside, he was cracking. One night years later, he held his newborn daughter for the first time. And without warning, he wept. Not just a tear, a flood. Years of unspoken pain, unlived softness, unmet tenderness. And in that moment, he realized the mask he wore for so long had kept out the very love he'd always longed for. That's what masks do. They protect you, but they also isolate you. You get to survive, but not to feel, not fully. In Buddhism, they speak of Maya illusion. Most people think it means the world is fake, but that's not quite right. The illusion isn't the world, it's the way we see it, through layers of fear, pride, shame, desire, through the masks. And when you live behind enough layers, you stop seeing clearly, not just the world, but yourself. You begin to confuse performance with purpose, appearance with essence, achievement with worth. And that confusion, it breeds suffering. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet hum of something's missing. Even in moments that should feel full, there's an emptiness. And you wonder, why can't I feel joy like I used to? Maybe the answer is simple, because you've been feeling joy through a mask. And masks numb everything, even the good. The modern world doesn't reward authenticity. It rewards consistency, relatability, predictable personalities. So we pick one version of ourselves and stick to it, even when we've outgrown it, even when it no longer fits. But a soul isn't static. You were meant to shift, to unfold, to be soft in one season, bold in another, to cry in the morning and laugh by nightfall. Yet society keeps asking you to pick a lane, to know who you are, to have a brand, to be legible. And so we perform stability, even when we're breaking inside. But here's what the ancient teachers whisper again and again. The self is not a thing. It's a river, always moving, always changing form, still deeply itself. And just like a river, you don't lose your essence by changing. You only lose it when you try to stop the flow. I once met a woman in her 50s. Her kids had grown. Her marriage long faded. Her career was steady but uninspiring. And one day she said, I've been playing the same character for 30 years, and I think I'm ready to meet the woman underneath. It was one of the most honest things I'd ever heard. She wasn't starting over. She was starting true. And truth doesn't ask for a show. It only asks for courage. Courage to be seen. Courage to change. Courage to be unmasked. Not all at once, but piece by piece, layer by layer, until what's left is still, soft, and real. You don't have to rip off the mask. That's too violent. Just loosen it, gently, at your own pace, with people who make you feel safe, with places that don't demand a performance, with moments when you can finally exhale. And when the mask slips even a little, you'll notice something strange. The world doesn't end. You do not fall apart. You become more human. And in that humanness is something far deeper than perfection. There is presence. And presence is where life finally begins. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being unseen. Even in a crowded room, even in a warm family, even in a relationship that once felt like home. Because when you wear a mask long enough, people begin to love the mask, not you. And that is the loneliest feeling in the world. Have you ever had a moment, quiet, fleeting, where someone looked at you, really looked at you, and you felt naked? Not in body, but in soul. It's terrifying, but also it's holy. Because in that moment, you're not performing. You're not pleasing. You're not fixing. You're just there, raw, exposed, alive. Most of us don't live for long in that space. We pull the mask back on. We retreat to the known because vulnerability feels like risk. And risk is not something we've been taught to love. We've been taught to win, to impress, to keep it together. But beneath all that together, most of us are quietly unraveling. The Buddha once said, "To be fully known and fully loved, this is the deepest human joy." But we reverse it. We want to be fully loved before we dare to be fully known. So we show only the parts of ourselves we think are lovable, curated, cleaned up, familiar. And then we wonder why love feels shallow. It's not because others can't love us. It's because we never let them see us. And no one can love what they cannot see. We spend years building a persona, strong, smart, funny, capable, spiritual, successful. But when the lights go out and the pretending stops, who is it that lies in bed, staring at the ceiling? What do they fear? What do they ache for? What memory still stings? What dream still whispers? That person is you. Not the one in your bio. Not the one they talk about at dinner parties, but the one who remembers how to feel. And feeling, though messy, inconvenient, unpredictable, is sacred. Because feeling is how we return to the body, to presence, to now. And now is the only place you can truly live. There's an image I return to often. Imagine you are a candle. The flame is your presence, your truth. The mask is a glass jar you place over the candle. It protects, it hides. But over time, the oxygen runs out and the flame dims, not because you weren't bright, but because you were too protected. This is what happens to the soul when we live too long in performance. We dim, we shrink, we disappear. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly, until we start saying things like, "I don't know who I am anymore. I just feel tired all the time. I'm afraid if I stop pretending, no one will stay." But here's the radical truth. The people who leave when you remove the mask were never really with you. They were with the version of you that kept them comfortable. And that's not connection. That's convenience. Real connection is rare. It asks much more of us than charm or polish. It asks for stillness, for presence, for truth. And truth is magnetic. When you speak it, not everyone will stay, but the right ones will come closer. They won't flinch at your silence. They won't fear your shadows. They won't run from your softness, because they're not here for the mask. They're here for the light. Even if it flickers, even if it's messy, even if it trembles some nights, they're here for what's real. And that is enough. Tonight, before the world rushes back in, before the mask is needed again, try this. Sit in the dark. Feel the quiet and place your hand on your chest, not to say anything, not to fix anything, just to feel that you are here, alive, without the mask, without the role, just you. And if it feels unfamiliar, stay. Let the awkwardness melt, because underneath the performance, there is a truth that still pulses, still breathes, still remembers. And that truth is not something you need to become. It's something you already are. There comes a time in life, not marked by birthdays or achievements, but by a quiet decision. The decision to come home, not to a place, but to yourself. No banners, no applause, just a gentle turning inward, a soft rebellion against everything false. That's the real beginning. You don't wake up one day and suddenly live mask-free. It's not a dramatic unveiling. It's subtle. It's slow. It's sacred. You start by noticing. Noticing the tension in your smile when you're pretending. Noticing the silence that follows a lie you didn't want to tell. Noticing the fatigue after another day of being on. And then with tenderness, not shame, you ask, what am I so afraid they'll see? If I let them see me, we all carry a secret fear that if we drop the performance, no one will love what's underneath. But that fear isn't truth. It's memory. It's a wound. It's a time you were too much or not enough. A moment someone made you believe your realness was a problem. But that moment doesn't define you. It only shaped the mask. Now you can choose to let the shaping stop. Because life, true life, isn't something you control into existence. It's something you allow to unfold. And the unfolding only happens when you stop gripping so tightly to who you're supposed to be. There's a teaching in Zen. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. What changes is not the world. What changes is the way you are within it. You don't have to quit everything. You don't have to disappear. You just have to show up differently, with less armor, with more honesty, with the courage to be whole in a world that rewards fragments. And yes, some people may not understand the shift. Some will miss the version of you that made them comfortable, that stayed silent, that kept the peace. But peace without truth is not peace. It's quiet suffering. And your soul has suffered enough. Let them misunderstand. Let them walk away. Not because you don't care, but because you care more about being real than being accepted. That's not ego. That's healing. That's the deep work. The kind that doesn't show on the outside, but changes everything on the inside. And when the inside changes, the world begins to feel different. Not because it is, but because you are. You're no longer chasing love. You're radiating truth. And truth draws in what pretending never could. One day, someone will sit across from you. They will look you in the eye and say, "You feel different." Like you're not trying so hard to be anything. And you will smile. A soft, unforced smile. And say, "I finally stopped wearing the mask." And that moment will be more powerful than any applause you ever received. Because it's not about being impressive. It's about being known. And being known begins with knowing yourself. Not the version you market. Not the version you perfected. But the one that breathes beneath it all. The one who has nothing to prove and everything to feel. So now, the invitation is simple. When you feel the mask, tighten. When you feel the need to perform, rise up like a reflex pause. Breathe and whisper to yourself, "I'm safe without the mask." Even if you don't fully believe it yet. Because each time you do, you unlearn a little more fear. And remember, a little more truth. And one day, you won't need to remember anymore, because you'll be living it fully, freely, face uncovered, heart open. This is the return. Welcome home. Let this land. Don't rush. Let it sit in your chest like a seed. It knows how to grow. And if no one has told you this in a while, you don't need to become anyone else. You only need to return to who you've always been. The world needs more of that. It needs more of you.